In this video I want to go over plotting points, looking at the distance and finding distance using Pythagoras theorem, midpoint, which we said was the averages, and then we want to have a look at gradient, which I've lost my little line here, which is rise over 1, and looking at the y-intercept where x is equal to 0. That's at this point here, x is equal to 0 anywhere along this line. Okay, so let's first of all have looking at plotting points. If they've given me the equation y equals 2x minus 1 and asked me to plot the points, I know that these values up here, these values are what I can take as that. So the first one, we look at y is equal to 2, and I substitute my negative 2 into the equation, minus 1. So I've got 2 times negative 2 is negative 4 minus 1, which is equal to negative 5. I then substituted y at x equals negative 1. It's 2 times negative 1 minus 1, which is equal to negative 2 minus 1, negative 3. Negative 3. Then I said y at x equals 0. It's 2 times 0 minus 1. It's minus 1. At y equals 2 to the 1 minus 1. 2 times 1 minus 1 is 1. And then y is equal to 2 times 2 minus 1. 4 minus 1 is 3. I can then go from here. So I've identified those points. Then I can then go to plot the line. So at x is equal to negative 2, come across, I've got x is equal to negative 2, y is equal to negative 5. I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At x is equal to negative 1, y equals negative 3. At x is 0, which is here, y is equal to negative 1. At x is 1, y is 1. And x is 2, x is 2, y is 3. 3. Okay, what we then need to do is I need to draw my line. I get my ruler out and we draw a line straight through this one. And you notice when I'm drawing my line, I'm extending it past the points I've included, because the line, if I could continue adding points out here and out this way. So this is a line of y is equal to 2x minus 3, and it's continuous. Okay, it goes straight on. It crosses the y-axis here and it crosses the x-axis here, but it continues up here and down here. Now they've asked me to find the distance between 2 points. The points they've asked me is negative 2, 5. So negative 2, 5. This is point A, and this is point B, which is 1, 1. B. So this one is negative 2, negative 5, and the point here is 1, 1. Now they've asked me to find the distance. Now, for the distance, if it's a straight line going along the parallel to the x-axis or parallel to the y-axis, I could just count them off. But what I need to do is I need to use Pythagoras. I draw in an imaginary triangle. I can count this here, 1, 2, 3. And I can count these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so the distance of AB is equal to the square of AB using Pythagoras is 6 squared plus 3 squared is equal to 36 plus 9, and that is equal to 45. So AB is then equal to the square root of 45 units. I'm not going to use my calculator, I'm just going to leave it at that. If the question had asked you to find decimal places, yes you would have, but it hasn't, so we'll just leave it. So this distance here is equal to square root of 45. 45 units. The midpoint. Now we said the midpoint is the average the x's and average the y's. So the midpoint. T, we look for average the x's. Now the x coordinate, let's have a look. The x coordinates are negative 2 plus 1 divided by 2. And the y's are negative 5 plus 1 divided by 2. So we'd say our midpoint is negative 2 plus 1 is equal to negative 1.5, negative 1.5, and the y is negative 5 plus 1, that's equal to negative 4. Negative 4 on 2 is negative 2. So let's just have a look where that is. So we're saying it's negative 1/2, negative 1/2, negative 2. So we're saying that point there is the midpoint. Now we're going to call that point, I'm just going to call it C. And just looking at it visually, it does look like that point. So our midpoint here, C, is negative 1/2, comma, negative 2. Now the gradient, how we work out the gradient is the rise divided by the run. So gradient, we rise 6 and we ran 3. So, and we ran in the positive direction. Remember I said this is a positive side and this is a positive side. Positive and a positive makes a positive. Over here is negative, big negatives, and down here is big negatives. So if the line had been going in this inclination, a negative and a positive makes a negative. So we've got a positive gradient, and our positive gradient is 2. So our gradient we call M equals 2. The next thing we're looking for, the y-intercept. Now the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. It's crossing the y-axis here, at this point here. And the coordinates of that point are x is equal to 0, y is equal to negative 1. Right? So let's just have a look at x is equal to 0. This y-axis, x is equal to 0 everywhere along this line. Okay? This point here is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the y-axis. Everywhere is equal to 0. And this is negative 1. Let's just have a look up at this equation here. Y equals 2x minus 1. Just for a note, this negative 1 is always giving me the y-axis because this is where x equals 0. So x equals 0, like we've got over here, y is equal to negative 1. So they're the things we need to know about coordinate geometry. I hope this helps. Bye.